In the early days of January 2019, residents of the quiet tourist neighborhood of Costa Teguise on the island of Lanzarote in the Spanish Canary Islands noticed a strange column of smoke rising from the courtyard of a private home. The fire continued for 3 consecutive days, and the wind carried the smell of burning even to the adjacent streets. People felt uneasy. Winters on the islands are almost windless, and a fire like this seemed out of place. Firefighters arrived on the evening of January 3rd. They were greeted by the homeowner, Raul Diaz, a 40-year-old engineer, with complete calm. He said he was burning old books and papers. After inspecting the yard, first responders concluded that the fire posed no danger and left. No one suspected in that moment that this flame would ignite the fuse of a case that would later be classified as one of the most heinous crimes of the year and the most sensational in Lanzarote's history. I would like to highlight a crucial detail here. The fire lasted far longer than a simple cleanup operation would justify. Some neighbors later claimed that the flames were reignited every night. It seemed as if in that moment, quietly and almost imperceptibly, but irrevocably, the story I am about to tell you began to unfold. What exactly was burning in that yard? No one knew. There was no reason to doubt Raul's explanation yet. But it would soon become clear that the ash was not hiding trash, but traces of something that would shock all of Spain and force people to question the failures of justice. Background: Romina and Raul. The story of Romina Celeste Núñez began far from the Canary Islands. She was born in Paraguay and moved to Spain early in her life in search of a better future. She worked as a waitress, dreaming of starting a family and having her own place. In 2016, her life changed when she met Raul Diaz Chacon, an engineer from Lanzarote who seemed confident and well-off, promising stability and support. At first, everything seemed to be going well. Romina moved in with Raul in Costa Teguise, and they began planning a family. However, it wasn't long before signs of control began to appear: jealousy, forbidden freedoms, and sudden fits of rage. Raul drank alcohol heavily and later used banned substances. Their relationship became a state of dependency for both, though their addictions differed. His addiction was to substances and power, and hers was to the hope that she could fix things. Pay close attention to this phase. It is the time when the foundation of cruelty is laid. It does not start with physical aggression, but with submission, a dynamic that transforms over time into a norm. Romina hid the early signs of aggression. She explained away bruises as clumsy falls. She never asked for help. Medical records documented her injuries, but no formal reports of cruelty were filed. Authorities only learned of the situation after her disappearance. Neighbors remembered hearing screams from the house, and the rare moments Romina tried to leave, only to return every time. She had no relatives in Spain and was financially dependent on her partner. An immigrant without support, without legal status, this is the type of person who becomes particularly vulnerable. I hope this story, told with care and respect, helps shed light on the shadows in which these matters can remain hidden. And this raises a serious question. How can the system miss all the warning signs, medical reports, neighbors, and even random witnesses? Everyone saw what was happening, yet no one responded. This gap between knowing and acting often becomes the deciding factor in someone's fate. Raul and Romina married in 2018 at a time when their relationship had already become a cycle of conflict. Their lives turned into a repetitive loop: tantrums, reconciliations, fear, and silence. And it was that silence that would play a major role in what happened next. The disappearance and investigation. By early 2019, Romina's communication with her loved ones stopped abruptly. She stopped replying to messages, vanished from social media, and did not call her children, something she usually did at least once a week. For her family in Paraguay, this was an immediate red flag. Her mother and sister began calling her Spanish number, but no one answered. Raúl didn't pick up the phone until several days later. His voice sounded calm, not worried at all, and he explained nonchalantly that Romina had gone for a walk and would return soon. His tone was completely flat. No worry, no urgency, no interest in explaining anything else. When they couldn't reach her, the family began posting in Spanish communities asking for help from friends. More than a week passed without a word from Romina. Only then did Raúl contact local authorities. He told them his wife had been missing for a few weeks. According to him, this wasn't the first time. He claimed she often left the house after arguments and returned a few days later. His explanation seemed rehearsed, like a pre-prepared story, but you won't believe what happened when investigators began scrutinizing his statements. What stands out here is the timeline. About 7 days passed between Romina's disappearance and Raúl contacting the authorities. A delay difficult to explain as anything other than indifference, or worse, a feeling that there was no point in looking for her. That was the first real danger sign for investigators. Lanzarote police opened a formal investigation. From the first interview, detectives noticed inconsistencies. Raúl kept changing his story. At first, he said he saw Romina in the morning. Then he said in the evening. He gave different dates and times for when she allegedly left the house. The clothes he described her wearing didn't match what friends said she was wearing when they last saw her. When asked why he waited so long to report her missing, Raúl simply said he didn't want to cause panic. Initial searches yielded nothing. No surveillance footage, no witnesses who could confirm Romina left the house at all. Her phone was off, her bank accounts saw no activity. All this led police to consider the possibility that her disappearance was not voluntary, but something much more dangerous. Let's take a closer look at the details. Investigators pulled her phone records and found that after December 31, 2018, there wasn't a single incoming or outgoing call. At the same time, Raúl's phone activity spiked. He made short calls to unfamiliar numbers and used mobile data during late-night hours. All this happened during the exact period neighbors recalled seeing a fire in his backyard. Here, the investigation shifted from observation to active surveillance. With no solid evidence yet, police obtained a warrant to tap Raúl's phone. The goal was simple: catch inconsistencies or potential accidental confessions. It didn't take long for this strategy to pay off. Within a few days of monitoring his calls, investigators picked up conversations suggesting Raúl was trying to justify himself in advance, telling family members that everything happened by accident. Here began the real investigation. What mattered most was not what was found at the crime scene, but what was heard. While Romina's family kept calling her phone, clinging to the hope she might answer, police were approaching a painful realization. The time for searching for a living woman had already passed. After weeks of surveillance, investigators recorded a phone call between Raúl Diaz and a relative. During the call, he calmly admitted to disposing of his wife's remains. His tone was so composed, so matter-of-fact, it was horrifying, as if he were discussing a routine matter, not describing a serious crime. That call became the turning point in the case. Raúl said he used the backyard grill to destroy part of the remains, then threw the bags into the ocean. For investigators, this wasn't just a confession. It was evidence of calculated actions and emotional detachment. Police immediately conducted a full search of the property. Inside the house, they found traces of blood on the walls and floor. Surfaces had been cleaned, but residue remained in the grout of the tiles. Forensic tests later confirmed it was Romina's blood. In the bedroom, they found garden shears. Biological material on the blades matched Romina's DNA. Let's pause here for a moment. Every single one of these details points not to a moment of blind rage, but to a deliberate and planned course of action. Raoul's steps were methodical, not reckless. From that point on, the investigation had a clear direction. Detectives reconstructed the events of that night, piecing together a timeline of purchases, movements, and phone calls made by the suspect. His story of a tragic accident began to crumble. Every new discovery revealed more intent. This raises a difficult question. How can a person with no criminal record, a respectable man in his community, become capable of something so systematic? The answer may not lie in a single moment, but in years of hidden aggression kept behind closed doors. The evidence from the sea. Just days after Raoul's recorded confession, nature itself added an unexpected piece to the case. Early in the morning along the coastline near El Carmen in the Costa Teguise area, a local man noticed something unusual washed up by the waves. It looked like a dense piece of organic tissue. At first glance, he assumed it was part of a dead sea creature, perhaps a dolphin, which sometimes washes ashore after storms. He alerted the lifeguard on duty, but the guard disregarded it and threw the piece into a nearby dumpster. The man didn't realize that what he found might be linked to the case until several days later, when the media began covering the disappearance of Romina Celeste Núñez. He contacted the police and described the location precisely. He also mentioned that the tissue seemed unusually hard and had an unnatural color. Investigators moved quickly. They searched the area and recovered the exact piece from the dumpster. That sample was sent to the forensic lab at the Institute of Legal Medicine in Las Palmas, Gran Canaria. Upon initial examination, forensic experts said the tissue resembled nothing from a marine animal. Further analysis revealed it was a human lung. This single discovery changed everything. Up until that point, the investigation had only Raoul's recorded confession and blood evidence from the house. Now they had physical proof of death. The lung became the first confirmed piece of Romina's body to be found outside the home. It is truly an unbelievable crime, where the sea was the final witness that decided to cough up the evidence. This, in my opinion, is the moment where all doubts were erased. The investigation now had indisputable proof. Romina was no longer alive, and her remains had been deliberately destroyed and thrown into the sea. Before this, there was a slim theoretical chance she might be alive somewhere, but the discovery of human remains made that impossible. The lab ran genetic testing and matched the sample with the biological traces previously found in Raoul's home. The match was conclusive. Experts also confirmed the genetic profile was consistent with DNA provided by Romina's family in Paraguay. However, some details still raised questions. How did a part of her body survive destruction and end up on the beach weeks later? It is likely Raoul failed to destroy everything completely, and what remained ended up in the water, eventually carried by the current to the shore. By the time the lab results appeared, there was no longer room for doubt. Romina's disappearance was no longer just a missing person case. It had officially become a criminal investigation. Authorities now had not only a confession and physical evidence from the home, but also direct biological proof linking the crime to a specific location, the coast, where Raoul himself admitted to dumping the remains. It was as if the ocean, as a silent witness, returned a trace that could no longer be hidden. From that moment, there was enough evidence to escalate charges against Raúl Díaz-Chacón and proceed with formal prosecution. Waiting for him were more interrogations, expert reviews, and a legal process that would reveal just how slow the system can be, even when the truth is already out. In his initial interviews, Raúl Díaz-Chacón denied causing his wife's death. He claimed that on the morning of January 1, 2019, he found her unconscious, presumably due to an overdose. According to him, he panicked, didn't know what to do and made the decision to dispose of the body to cover up the presence of illicit substances in the house. Initially, investigators considered this version, but forensic reports quickly dismantled it. Romina's remains showed multiple injuries and signs of blunt force trauma inconsistent with any type of accident. Blood was found in several rooms of the house, and spatter patterns suggested a struggle occurred. Raul later admitted to dismembering the body and attempting to destroy evidence, but insisted her death was unintentional. Investigators compared his timeline with phone records and physical movements. The contradictions were glaring. His statements matched neither the timestamps nor the behavior. At this point, from my perspective, the investigation shifted from uncertainty to clarity. The evidence no longer needed interpretation. It spoke for itself. Detectives reached the conclusion that Romina's death was the result of physical assault. The nature of the injuries pointed to sustained aggression occurring over time. Medical records confirmed that in the year prior to her death, Romina saw doctors for multiple injuries, but she never filed a formal complaint. Let's be clear here. The overdose story didn't just collapse, it revealed a deeper attempt to mask intent behind a false sense of panic. For investigators, that became a defining moment. The crime was no longer a mystery, it had a name and a face. Following the official confirmation of Romina's death, police arrested Raul Diaz-Chacon. He was detained in January 2019. From that point, a long and arduous legal process began. Prosecutors immediately requested his detention, not just due to the severity of the charges, but also the flight risk. Raul continued to deny any intent to harm, despite admitting to hiding the body, hoping that partial cooperation might work in his favor. He remained in preventive detention, remand, for nearly 4 years. During that time, his legal team used every possible strategy to delay proceedings, changing lawyers and submitting repeated requests for new expert reports and procedural reviews. All of this caused months of bureaucratic delays and postponed court hearings. One of the biggest delays in the investigation centered around a pair of garden shears recovered during the initial search. A forensic analysis was requested to determine if the tool could cause injuries consistent with the nature of the crime. Although the report was completed within a month, for reasons that remain unclear, it ended up stuck at the Institute of Legal Medicine in Las Palmas for over 2 years. That stalled document became one of the main reasons the case remained frozen in place.